Okay, I believe we're live. Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. Can you guys all hear me? If you can, just give me a thumbs up. Nope, looks like no one can hear me. Ken, can you hear me? Okay, so someone's given a thumbs up. So um, we shall go ahead and start. We shall go ahead and start. So, all right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 19th edition of TCRM Conversations with Esau Bassey. So, TCRM Conversations is an initiative of the Cross River Movement, and this is aimed at bringing together stakeholders both from within the public sector, private sector, citizens to discuss issues pertaining to Cross River State and how we can together work towards the development of the state. So today, for those who've been attending our last few meetings, you would notice that we have begun to hold conversations around specific sectors, and we've called them civic engagements. So it's a civic engagement series. So today we're going to be focusing our attention on tourism, arts, and culture in Cross River State. We know over the years, tourism has played a vital role in the economy of Cross River State. And there's been a new administration coming in Cross River State, and we're keen to know what the plans of the current administration are with regard to tourism, arts, and culture. So we have some guests here who hopefully would be having this conversation with, and it's open to everyone also to participate. All right, so before we kick off the conversation, I'll just run through a few ground rules. I'll run through a few ground rules. So just pay attention. So everyone except the facilitator and the guests will be muted while this event is in progress. So if you're joining us on Zoom, your volume is going to be muted, your audio is going to be muted. But if you have a question to ask, we would love you to use the reactions button at the bottom or the top of your Zoom application to raise your hand, and then we will unmute you and give you the opportunity to ask your question. And we'll give preference to those who have their camera switched on, because we'd like to see who it is that is engaging with us. Once you're done asking your question, we'll ask you to lower your hand so that we don't get confused and call you back again. If you're on Zoom, please feel free to use the comments section to share any comments or any questions that you might have for any of our panelists. I urge you to keep your comments and questions civil and respectful. And if you're following us on YouTube, on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Facebook, feel free to leave a comment as well. And again, keep your comments civil and respectful, and hopefully we'll read your comments out during the course of this conversation. Also, to those who are listening live on Sparkling FM 92.3, you can send in your questions by WhatsApp. So don't call this number. You can WhatsApp or text your question to this number. And the number is 0806 756 6448. I'll take the number one more time. It's 0806 756 6448. Also, if you'd like to propose any topic for a future conversation on this series, please, get in touch with us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so I think we're going to be jumping straight into our conversation. So I'll just read out our panelists for today, and some of them may have joined while we've been in progress. So we have the Honorable Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable Robert Ewa. We have Professor Bassey, who's a professor of tourism marketing at the University of Calabar. We also have Mr. Pius Owan, who is head of operations, Cross River State Tourism Bureau. And we have Mr. Charles Ogar, who's the chairman, Hoteliers Association of Cross River State. So welcome, panelists. Honestly, I see Professor Bassey, so even though his audio seems to be yet to connect. Ken, are you able to confirm which other panelists we have here so we can start the conversation? Prof, please, if you can, you're connected, we can see you, but your audio is not connected. So there might be maybe like a pop-up where you need to connect your audio. You need to click to select your audio so that we can hear you. If you're having difficulty with that, maybe you might come off and then come back onto the meeting. Ken. You're muted, cannot hear you. You're muted, so I'm unable to hear you. Sorry, we've got so many people on, and they've joined with different names that we cannot recognize. So there's Android, Blue, Royd, and some of our panelists may be here. If you're one of our panelists, please just somehow indicate so that we can give you an opportunity to be part of this conversation. Okay, seems like we're having a few challenges identifying who our panelists are on the conversation. Bear with us. I think that what we will do, so we're going to be a bit unscripted here, and tourism is something that over the years has been very important to the economy of Cross River State. I'm happy to shift this. Normally we would take comments from guests, from participants on Zoom towards the end of the event when we would have heard from some of the panelists. But if there's anyone here who would like to be given the opportunity perhaps to just give their impression of the current state of tourism in the state, would love to hear from you. So just, let's make this unscripted. Let's, give you the opportunity if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question about something to do with tourism in Cross River State. So we'll do that while we give our panelists the opportunity to sort out their technical challenges. So Prof, unfortunately, your audio is not connected. So it's going to be, I'm not sure how we would be able to host this conversation. Can you hear me, Prof? Professor Bassey, can you hear me? Okay, so while we're giving Prof and others the opportunity to sort out technical challenges, I think I'm probably going to nominate one or two people to just share with us what their impressions are of the state of tourism in Cross River State presently. David Etim, may I unmute you and ask you to share your thoughts? You are chairman of the president of Calabar Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So let me yield the floor to you and ask you to share with us your thoughts on tourism in the state.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Esau. And good afternoon to everybody, or good evening, if it's an early evening. Tourism in Cross River State. From the perspective of potential, enormous, albeit that in the last maybe 8 years, we have our tourism potential, our tourism has remained at potential. The realization of that potential has been very far from realization. You know, the issues in terms of, let's even take it from the issue of tourist locations, this location readiness of various locations in Cross River State. A perfect example is the Agbakam Falls, which is a potentially magnificent site, but which has suffered from the lack of readiness, you know, whereby the kind of infrastructure that is required to make a tourist location tourist friendly. You know, simple things like staircases, simple things like, you know, rails to hold your, you know, when you're walking up a hill, to be able to hold hands, something to, you know, to support you to climb up a hill, toilets, lighting, the elephant in the room, security. You know, these are key issues that need to be addressed, that would then make it possible for somebody to sit down. Let's even forget about international visitors, to sit down in Abuja and decide that for this Easter break, I want to take my family to Agbakam. Now, if I get to Agbakam Falls, what are the possibilities of accommodation? I don't want to go anywhere else. I just want to be there, wake up in the morning, see the falls, swim in the falls, just be there. Now, what are the facilities available that would enable a tourist experience Agbakam in that manner, or Kwa Falls in that manner, or any other location in that manner, whereby, you know, you can decide that, you know, I don't want to see anything else in Cross River State. I just want to see one site. I want to spend 1 week there. I want to expend my money there and have a fulfilling experience. You know, these are things that I think need to be addressed. There was a plan, you know, from 99 to maybe 2007 or 2015, was it 15 years? Is it the beginning of our immediate past administration? I think 2015 it was. You know, from that time, you know, the last 8 years, it's a void. It's a void, you know, and I think there's a lot of catching up that the state needs to do with the economy of the country and the state. It looks challenging in terms of the funding required to catch up. And so I would like to see, speaking now from private sector perspective, I would like to see a situation whereby the state government opens up the space in terms of putting in place the right policies, the right investment incentives that would then begin to cause private sector to look at an Agbakam Falls and say, okay, you know what? I can provide toilets in Abakum, and I can see the traffic that will come through, because everything, it is only government that builds and expects people to go. Private sector sees people going and then builds. So you see the market before you start making the investment. Now, these are things that if the right policies are in place, then that trickle on will begin to occur, where private sector begins to take initiatives to make investments that would then spiral into more traffic, and more investment goes in, and that spirals into more traffic, and it builds. So these are things that we would like to see happen in the state. Purely from the policy, I think government should focus more on putting in place the right policies that would then engender investment. And then once that is done, then maybe some catalytic capital could go in, to trigger the flow, and then the real capital will flow in from the private sector. Because I think the growth, the window to growth, or the vehicle for growth, is the private sector. That's something that is not, I don't think is arguable, but there is need for catalytic capital from government, but more than the catalytic capital is the right policy, because the right policy followed by catalytic capital will just snowball. That's where I would like to leave it for now. Thank you very much, Esau, for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you.
David, thanks very much. I think what you've shared is apt, and you mentioned that Bokim, but it could apply also to Kwa Falls. It could apply to so many other excellent destinations within Cross River State. So the infrastructure needs to be there in order to attract, tourists, and then, obviously that fits into the economy. That's great. So we're live, I believe, on Sparkling FM 92.5. Now, one of two things has happened. Is either our government officials have run away from this conversation, or they are here and are somehow hiding and not willing to make themselves available to answer questions. Either of which would be quite an indictment on them. If you're here and you represent the Cross River State Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, you need to indicate, you need to let us know. Maybe you can put in a chat or something to let us know. If you're here representing the Cross River State Tourism Bureau, you need to let us know. You've not come on this conversation to be an observer. We want to ask you questions. All right, I see here that we have Mr. Emmanuel Ntuyang. He's not one of our panelists, but he's someone who is very strong on ecotourism and works for the federal one of the federal agencies, I think, that manages a national park. So, Emma, I'm going to unmute you and ask you, to share with us your thoughts around tourism currently in Cross River State, and maybe you might want to speak about some of the things that the federal government is doing that Cross River State will benefit from.
Well, thank you very much, Esau. I guess you are hearing me.
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Yeah. Let me also thank the speaker, David, for you, for his understanding of the issues that shape tourism development, particularly as it has to do with destinations and product development around destinations. Well, I must say that Cross River is awesomely blessed with resources that are the goose that lays the golden egg for tourism development, particularly ecotourism. You notice that Cross River has different ecosystems, from the marine ecosystem to the mangrove, to the wetland, to the rainforest, to the mountain, to the savanna, to even the Guinea savanna. Cross River is awesome, and these are the resources that tourism is particularly the ecological tourism is based on, because you develop tourism based on your niche, and this is the niche for Cross River. Its environment is a major niche for tourism development, and I think that we need to be very very conscious of this. If our tourism must be sustained, if it's something that people do not feel seeing it too monotonous. For instance, the Calabar Carnival is an awesome product. It's a tourism product that I believe that over time, the traffic to Calabar Carnival may be reducing because of some monotony. Although yearly there are concepts that come up, there are thematic concepts come up, which have enlivened. But I believe that we need to develop our niche, and that niche, for me, environmentally, is our ecology. The traffic all over the world to destinations is in favor of ecotourism. Areas of rustic value, areas that have therapeutic relevance to life, because visitors want to see things they haven't seen elsewhere. They want to enjoy what they don't have around them. So Cross River is, for me, a great destination, and it is important that we build our tourism around these niches. For now, I do not know what government policies are. Marrying all of this together with the carnival, because I would expect that the Carnival Calabar should have a specific date set aside to visit other sites in the state. Because if you come to Calabar, Cross River is not just Calabar, The tourism in Cross River State is not just the carnival. Yes, you are coming for carnival. But you see, tourism in these days is marketed in circuits. It can't just be a one-off product. If you come for the carnival, which is like a cultural show, there's also the ecological show, which is, of course, like I've said, our beautiful and highly endowed environment. So I expect that we should be able to marry the traffic to Calabar during Carnival to visit locations outside Calabar. For instance, Kwa Falls is about 30 minutes away from Calabar. And if visitors come, of course, in between those days, if 3-4 days are kept for the Carnival, one day could be assigned for or dedicated, to visit locations like Kwa Falls, the Cross River National Park, and other areas that are not far from Calabar. Maybe locations that are not more than 2 hours, away from Calabar. Just to encourage visitors to see the other side of Cross River and enjoy the beauty that Cross River is known for. If you come for Carnival, it could be just, you need to break that monotony and get the persons to see. That's why I support what David said, the need to develop those locations so that they become themselves destinations, as it were. I like to cite Kwa Falls repeatedly because it's just a stone throw away from Calabar. Yet that's very incredibly beautiful fall. It doesn't seem to add any value to Cross River State tourism. It doesn't seem to add value to revenue generation for the state. And this is a state in dire need of revenue generation. I mean, if you see, I've gone to so many places. I've gone to so many tourism destinations across the world. And I have seen that their rainforest is most times far off, because the forest is always in the far-flung from the city area. But in Cross River, the rainforest is just about a few kilometers away from the city. So we should.
Okay, looks like we've lost Emmanuel Tunyan's. Yeah, it looks like we've lost him, but I think he made some very good points there. And while he was talking about, and I think David also was talking about the need to develop basic infrastructure around our tourism sites. And I couldn't help but sit here and ask myself, these are the same things that we've heard about maybe for the last 24 years. So the question then is, what have successive administrations done in this regard? I can see Clement Umina. I can see Clement. Clement, it looks like you're in transit. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to unmute yourself. And I think you are probably one of the best people on this conversation, maybe to share with us what the current administration is doing, what its focus is with regard to tourism in the States.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, like you already know, I'm in transit. I got the notification about this Zoom meeting very late, just when I was about to start the journey down. But let me see what I can do before I run out of network area. Okay. I hope you are getting me from there.
Yes, but Clement, please, before you go on, if you can just introduce yourself, so what your position is, where you work, and then please go on to share with us.
Okay, my name is Clement Mina, President of Tourism, Arts and Culture in Cross River State. Okay, yeah.
All right,
is that okay?
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so that's that. I've done the introduction. What's the next question you asked?
Okay, so you're with government. I mean, one of the things that we would like to do is to understand what His Excellency, the governor's plan and roadmap is for tourism in Cross River State. Okay, looks like, I mean, because Clement is in transit, it looks like we're having challenges with his internet connectivity. Yeah. Clement, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, you heard the question.
Can
so
you
if you heard
me?
the question, yes, I can hear you. So go on.
Good. I was saying the present government led by Senator Prince Bassey is interested and has mandated the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture to ensure that tourism practice is done in its totality. What that means is bringing together tourism, arts, and culture to realize the proper objective of tourism, which is to position tourism as a commercial business where both the private sector, the community, and the government will work together to grow and maximize the benefit of that tourism can bring. And he has also mandated the ministry to ensure that we, as much as we appreciate what we are doing in terms of developing the component that to a large extent you can say is the performing arts when we talk of the carnival and the Calabar Festival. What the governor wants to see is to also add to the dancing and the performances, the opportunity for people to savor, enjoy and experience our natural heritage and for a fee, which is what tourism is all about. And that means that we are now in the process of redirecting our tourism policy towards investing and getting the gains from ecotourism and community-based tourism. So what the government is doing now is getting ecotourism to the fore. And that way, the ministry, with the leadership of the commissioner, Chief Abubakar, has been interacting with the core players that make the entire environmental and ecotourism component that can make it possible. We started by linking up with both governments, national and international, the local communities, and the private sectors. And then right now, I can rightly tell you that it's on a sound footing in terms of the level of collaborations that we have. The government will be Cross River project, Visit Cross River, which is a collaboration with Sterling Bank to develop all the tourism sites and attraction and package them and then put them out there in the open market for both the tourists and the tourism investors to see what they can do in that. So project Visit Cross River is already almost at the stage of being formally brought to existence in terms of launching, and that has to happen within the next 30 days. And then we have strengthened collaborations also with the other environmental key players like the National Park, the Wildlife Conservation Society, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and the likes, including Pandrelos, to make sure we're able to capture our best that we have in our natural environment, particularly the forest area. So these are some of the things that we think we can do to strengthen the development of tourism in Cross River State and make Cross River State a truly tourism destination. Okay, I'm not sure whether you get it because of the fluctuating network.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Clement, we can hear you clearly. So, are you done, or would you like to continue? Because it's quite interesting, and I'd have some questions for you when you're done.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'll have to switch off the video now, but I'll be hearing you because we're just about to pass a military checkpoint.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, what I would like to do, because, it's people in government can talk about the different initiatives that are going on as far as tourism is concerned, but I think it is actually people like maybe those who own hotels, those who have eateries, those who have restaurants that actually feel the impact and can actually say for certain that, yeah, we noticed that there's something changing. So I noticed that we've got Mrs. Bello. I believe we've got Mrs. Bello on the conversation. So Mrs. Bello, if you're here, please, just unmute yourself and just give us your own perspective as someone who is, within the private sector in Cross River State. Mrs. Thelma Bello.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I've had to step out to a corner because I'm in a noisy place. Tourism in Cross River State. Yes, this government truly desires to do a lot towards that area because we've been in limbo for the past 8 years. There's a lot to be done, and he has to be very deliberate, and his foot soldiers have to be very deliberate in doing it. I listened to somebody talking about the tourism sites here. If the community people are not involved in developing it, then it's a big problem. As a child and growing up, Quaw Falls was a wonderful destination because it had a unique product. It has the falls, it had a palm tree that had 8 branches, it had a trail you could walk, watching the waterfalls. But all of that isn't there anymore. The last time I visited there, the palms had been fallen. I think they've privatized it. So that site is one that the local government and the community consciously needs to go back to and develop to get visitors coming there and they're happy to be there. For our industry, yes, government has good intentions, but I can tell you that the levies that have come on now are ones that are not very palatable at all. We have them coming from every direction, environment, including pollution and everything else related to it. So they've sort of compartmentalized it and given it out to agents to do it. And after hotels are making very great demands, I think the Bureau would have to look into it. Our guests coming, yes, guests are coming, things are happening, but we need to see more deliberate things by government, bringing activities into town to make the hotels full and make things happen differently. Yes, the government did something very good, which I benefited from, and I'm grateful that I was chosen. Last year, the government picked out 10 hotels and gave them seed money grants to develop themselves for the carnival. It came a little late for the carnival. Like I told them when they came for inspection, we would have consciously done more if we had more time. But yes, it came out very handy and helped us do some things that would have been more difficult to do if we didn't have it. I don't know if I've derailed, but.
Okay, no, thanks very much for your perspective. Something I'm keen to know, Mrs. Bello, because you've been an operator in that in tourism in Cross River State for many, many years. In fact,
24 years.
24 years. So you're in a good position to give us an idea of a trend, which is what would really love to get. So
to be honest to you, I'm listening in now to hear these things. The ideal thing would have been for government to call the stakeholders and say, this is what we want to do. This is how we will do it. How can we do it together? Or can you buy into this? We don't know this. I'm just hearing these things now. You understand? That's why I was chatting you that when it's political, it's a different ball game.
Okay, Mrs. Bello, thank you. If you don't mind, I will come back to you later, but I can see that I believe Android Blue Droid is Mr. Charles Ogar. Please, good afternoon, sir. Apologies that I didn't bring you on earlier. I couldn't identify you, but now we have your video on. I think, we know who it is that's there. So please, perhaps you have some perspectives that you'd like to share, but again, I'd like that question to be answered about your perception of the trend. I believe you've also operated, for the last at least 2 decades. Just give us an idea how the industry, as far as you're concerned, has progressed or declined over the last couple of decades.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. I think I have to maybe comment a little when Edson was talking about the site about and all of that. Before I come to your question, most of the sites, of course, tourism is based on a tripod of transportation, accommodation, and the sites themselves. But then you cannot even talk of the sites, you can even access those sites. I've not really been to Powerful, but I've been to Abokan Waterfall. And I know when I took personally some of my friends to visit there last year, it was grueling because the road even to access Ecom, it's a challenge. Then from Ecom itself, you have to detour through Ajaso and Rigmarole all over before you get to Abokan Waterfalls. And if you go, the site is serene, welcoming. I see even the locals, looking out for if anybody can come. Okay, so I I think we have to also pay good attention to transportation, that's the access. Then coming back to the issue of the trend, that's it. Doesn't need any rocket science to know that in 1990, say from 2003, we happened into tourism, and of course, tourism, shot us up into national limelight, even international limelight. But then, the euphoria was basically built around the carnival, which is good. It's commercial for Calabar as a city. But then, going down the road, of course, anything that has only one thought to it, and I don't know how many persons were there, but at the point where the first initiator or the initiator of the whole idea left, the whole thing started watering down. And of course, I dare say that a lot of people who are even in the sector now don't even understand what the vision was. I know there's a blueprint, and that needs to be revisited, because the graph, if I should plot it, was up to 2008 or so, and the thing started, coming down a little, and then at the tail end, with the last 8 years, it was more like non-existent. Okay, I mean, in terms of tourism, people were, asking me the questions for what is the state of our tourism, what is actually happening to our marketing tools, so the products that we had, the ranch at Tinapa, for instance, and of course, nobody. I mean, I had no direct response to that, so it became almost like we're selling a non-existent product. And if tourism, as it were, as we call ourselves, a destination, it's not just Calabar as a destination. I think eggheads have to be put together, and sincerely too, by government, people who have passion, people who have been around, just like you're trying to do in your bits, to sit down and maybe think back, because I sincerely believe that Cross River State, more than any other thing, should look more keenly into tourism. We have other potential, but the one that are already there, more like just going to the river and picking a stone is tourism. So there's a lot of divergent views now. I don't know why, but I think government should just call everybody back, government, stakeholders, private sector, and all of that, and say, look, what are the first things to do? What are the things that will not cost much? Because if you go out there, Cross River State, in terms of tourism, still ranks high, and the disappointment or the confusion is still the fact that what it's actually happening to our tourism. People don't seem to understand. I don't either. If we could maybe play down a little on, I don't know if it's politics. Really, I think we can get it back. But really, we have derailed. We have really declined. But happy to say that the current administration of, Prince, His Excellency Prince Otu, is thinking back. More like let's come back and do what needs to be done. Like I heard Thelma talking about the encouragement given to some hotels, because there was that need assessment, and of course coming late, but it did something, and which somehow boosted the psychology of hoteliers. And I think that that trend should follow. That trend should be encouraged, so that we get back on the table, before we talk of making progress. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ogar, thank you very much. I can see that Professor Isu's audio issues have been resolved, so I'm going to bring you in shortly, Prof. And then Mr. Omina, please, I'll come back to you, because there were some points raised by Mrs. Bello and Mr. Charles Ogar. But before I give the floor to Professor Bassey Isu, Just to let you know, if you have any question, any comment, and you're with us on Zoom, just use the comment section to share it, and I'll read out your comment. If you would like to be given the opportunity to ask your question, indicate also, and we'll give you the opportunity also. All right, Prof, it's nice to have you finally. You're with the University of Calabar, and I understand your area of specialization is tourism marketing. So it would be nice to hear your perspectives about the current state of tourism in Cross River State and what you think can be done to improve the marketing of it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bassey. I greet every member, every participant on this platform. Yeah, to address your question, I will take it in two parts. First, what I think went wrong with tourism in Cross River State since after the exit of Mr. Donald Duke, who was the initiator and the promoter of the concept of tourism in Cross River State. First, is leadership failure after the exit of Donald Duke. One would have expected that we would have taken stock of what Donald Duke did and improved on it systematically. Donald Duke drove tourism to a point where using public relations to market the initial takeoff investment, both in infrastructure and the intangibles. By intangibles, I mean information, knowledge about the potential of tourism in Cross River State. He did well by using public relations to bring people far and near to visit Cross River State to see what we were doing and what we have. We didn't reach the zenith or the peak of tourism development. Unfortunately, when Governor Mboke came on board, I was a part of that government. I was the general manager of research and planning. He was interested in sustaining and reducing the cost of developing tourism. His idea was, okay, let's reduce government spending by a certain percentage. And so he did not add value to any of the infrastructure, whether tangible or soft, hard, or intangible, to what Governor Donald Duke had put in place. But meanwhile, practically and theoretically, we know that we were not at the peak. Donald Duke only promoted urban tourism, elitist tourism, at the initial part because it was a new concept, bringing people who had the money, who had the ability to visit Cross River State and see what we had. But at that point, tourism had not reached the communities who are the owners of the tourism resources of Cross River State. There was no buy-in at the community level where we will have had
Prof is frozen.
the sustainable point. They were key players in the process of the product, receiving visitors, knowing how to receive visitors, and managing the tourism asset itself. Okay, am I back?
You are, yes. Yeah.
Am I back?
You're back.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So none of that was done during Moke's regime. Rather, he was interested in reducing the cost of tourism investment. I remember as the general manager research and plan, carrying on research, we were interested in measuring how much we have been able to reduce the cost of investment in the carnival. Yes, the site, nothing was done, no site was developed. Agbakun remained the way it was, Kwafos remained the way it was, Boancho remained the way it was, Tinapa remained the way it was, the ranch remained the way it was. Nothing was done. And over the 8 years, you can expect that there will be depreciation of the assets over time. Then came Ayade, who never showed any interest in tourism and did not consider tourism as an economic sector. I remember in the leadership meeting in the ranch where he had all the political appointees, I was then appointed the chairman of Tourism Development Board under Ayade. And I remember asking, look, tourism is not listed as any of your economic pillars. It was not. And I pleaded, look, we have had tourism as the only hanging fruit that you can use to develop crossover states since we don't have so much funds. But he was not interested. And until he left, he did not focus his attention on tourism. So it's 16 years of depreciation. Where we are, it will take an external, maybe the World Bank, government intervention to bring us to the point where Donald Duke left us. I tell the truth. So if infrastructure we're not taken care of, what do you market? Yes, we can market something, but then as a researcher, you cannot market what you do not have. And the first thing we are supposed to do is to carry a marketing research. Where is tourism today in Cross-River State? What are the consumers' perception? What do they want us to do now? Because the world has gone ahead of us. We may think we are still the tourism leader of the country. We are not. Others are going ahead and singing their own song. We are still living in the past. So we need a concerted effort to measure the consumer perception of what we are in terms of our product, in terms of our product offering. What are they looking for? What we were producing 10 years ago may not be what the current Nigerian consumer, average consumer, is looking for in the tourism market. So we have to know before we start product development. It will be wrong for us to start developing when we have not carried a market research and situation research of our tourism environment. And if we begin by that, we will now be able to move forward. But for now, it will be difficult to advise. Other than that, we do a situation analysis of the tourism environment of Cross-River State. Thank you very much.
Okay, Prof, thank you so much. I think you've spoken very frankly, and I really love that. I know we have Michael Williams here. Michael, you used to be MD of the Tourism Bureau in Cross-River State. I'd love to hear from Michael Williams. Michael, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Michael. So, so would love to hear your perspective. You understand the, I guess, the nuances of tourism in Cross-River State and the challenges. You were in government, you led the Bureau. You since left, you've been away from Cross-River State, I guess, for the last 8 years. But I'm sure a lot of the challenges that you might have faced while you were there would probably still persist. So it would be nice to hear from you, Michael.
Hi, thank you, Yusuf. And good to see all of my friends, and so many of them, Charles, Ogar, Esu, Clement, really great to see you guys. I mean, everybody has spoken accurately, and I think Dr. Esu was particularly frank, which is always good. I like when people are honest. The only thing I would say is that the comments, especially that Bassey Esu made, probably need a little bit more context. Like I said, everything he said was correct. Depreciation of investment in tourism. But the truth is, for those of us who were there, we'll remember that the resources literally were not there to do everything that we were supposed to do. And so when you look at, let's take an example of say, the Obudu resort. The Obudu Mountain Resort, Bassey said nothing was done to improve it, enhance it. That was true, but I used to look at the accounts for how much it costs just to keep it the way it was. And that was a significant cost that the government could barely afford. And you can tell the difference between, Donald Duke spending to build it up. Then there's a cost of maintaining it, which didn't feel like progress, but at least it kind of held fort. And then, of course, once there's no investment, you saw how rapidly everything went downhill, which would tell you a lot about what it would have cost to maintain it. So, in terms of context, you guys would have known from the oil wells and the sort of boom that Cross River State was going through during the Duke years versus later years when there was a big struggle. And there was a huge debt that had been left. And again, everybody there probably is more political than I am, but the cost of what Governor Duke did, the cost had to be paid back. And that was left to the Imoke administration. So if someone has done what I consider to be visionary, but then leaves the bill behind, and so you have the bill for what was already done, then you need the fresh bill for fresh investment. And unfortunately, that wasn't there. Now, whether it was a lack of ability to raise the funds that were needed, and as Bassey said, maybe it would take a World Bank or some other kind of outside intervention. But Cross River couldn't certainly afford to borrow any more than it had already borrowed. So just a little bit of context there I think is important. Beyond that, the only other thing I would say is we have to remember that for all this talk, which is mostly centered on government, the tourism business is a private sector business. Apart from infrastructure, the government should only be involved in the promotion of the industry, creating the infrastructure. But aside from that, all of those attractions should be private sector investment. And so that's what we've always lacked, is the ability to provide a platform for the private sector to get involved, to show them that there's a return that they can get on their investment. Talking about all of these sites and attractions and everything is all well and good. But if you invested in any of those tomorrow, would you get your money back? Would you make a profit? And that's the only way you can sustain tourism. For anyone, I mean, most of us on this call have traveled lots of different places around the world. Tell me about how many government-run attractions have you seen in America, in the UK, or anywhere, right? Now, the exception might be somewhere like extremely oil-rich Dubai, which has led with government money, but the private sector took it up and has run with it. So they could afford to invest on massive infrastructure, and the private sector could easily see what happened, the fantastic airports, roads, rail, and so on. But it's very, very difficult in Nigeria when there's no national tourism spending to come down to state level and really talk about a state government investing massive sums of money that would be required, as Bassey quite rightly says, of World Bank proportions to revive tourism. So really more needs to be done to figure out how to get private sector investment and put it on a footing that no longer requires the government. Because if you leave it to the government, I mean, everything Clement said, for example, we were talking about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Nothing much has changed. And I tell you now, it will not change. This administration, very serious about tourism from what I've seen, but I will also tell you, without looking at the books, that they do not have the resources to do the things people expect them to do.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. I mean, from what you've said, I do agree with you, and I think most people on the conversation would, that tourism everywhere in the world is, well, almost everywhere in the world is driven by the private sector. It seemed like you gave the example of Dubai, where, of course, government put in a lot in terms of of infrastructure and to support the industry. And I feel as if that's kind of what was happening under the Duke administration. So Duke pumped in a lot, things the state, wherever the state was mentioned, it was a very positive image. People wanted to buy land I remember in Calabar to come and, settle in their retirement. So there was a lot of that going on. And if I recall, I think at some point people even began to, maybe give out rooms in their homes, for example, during the carnival period to accommodate. Yeah, so there was a lot going on, but it looks like all of that kind of went downhill, which is really, really unfortunate. Clement Umina, I want to come to you, but let me just read something that the governor said during his speech to the State House of Assembly when he presented the budget. He says, this is about tourism specifically. He says there's a need to upgrade our tourist sites to enhance the tourism experience. The upgrade of the facilities at Obudu Ranch Resort must be given utmost attention by the state government in the 2024 budget. So, Mr. Umina, you're in government. I want to come to you and ask specific things that the current administration is looking to do in 2024. So we're talking about things that are in the budget for 2024, which hopefully within the next 12 to 18 months, we should see unfold within Cross River State. So this is a very specific question.
I hope framework that is being put in place with Sterling Bank is to a greater extent
sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, Mr. Obina, sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind switching off your video so that hopefully we can get better quality on your audio?
Yeah. Thank you. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear you better. Please go on.
Great. Yes, I said yes. The framework that is being put in place, especially the collaboration with the Sterling Bank Consortium, is such that we believe in the next 24 or less than 12 months, we should begin to see some realistic indicators that we are getting it all about to get it right now as far as Cross River State tourism is concerned. What they are doing for now is we are trying to tackle the growth of Cross River State tourism with two prongs, looking at the marketing perspective and then the supply, whereby, like Matema has expressed, they have taken into consideration the already almost natural attractions that we have, like waterfalls and the rest. So we are working with the other foundation that the Michael Williams-led management of the
Looks like Mr. Omina, can you hear me?
In place the new language of getting tourism sites and attraction visitor ready. So that is one area that the Sterling Bank is on putting up a marketing caging. The visitor ready is a market. The other, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, carry on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know where you got me last, but I said what we have given ourselves a timeline of launching the Visit Cross River project by the end of this month. And what we are working towards is getting some key tourism sites. We have put them into the different clusters and the different sections. So we are starting with the southern cluster that include places like the Aqua Falls, mentioned, the National Park, and the rest. So the Sterling Bank, as an investor partner, will bring the support to get those sites ready. And they are building the marketing platform for those sites as well. So I think if we see how far we can go this year with the southern cluster, there'll be eventual speed is that the environmental stakeholders, they have keyed in to the players in the states, have come together and agree that ecotourism, community-based tourism, has to be one of the very top priority livelihood options to give to the communities around those resources that they are protecting or conserving. So if we strengthen, if the government strengthen the partnership, just like the ministry is doing already, with National Park, with the Wildlife Conservation Society, with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, with a lot of them, Pathways and the rest, we believe that we will have first the technical partners to work with. Secondly, we might just be able as a government to rely on some of the financial support that will bring into the project. They are not paying money to government coffers, but the money that they will bring to support livelihood development in those communities can also be channeled to developing ecotourism facilities and activities around those natural tourist sites. And I believe very strongly.
Okay, Clement Umina, thanks very much. Your audio, the quality of the audio is a bit poor, so I'll leave you for now, and then maybe we'll come back to you. But from from what you said, it sounds like on the government's part, you said the government is partnering with Sterling Bank, and they're looking to market to get sites, especially within the southern, I guess, senatorial district, visitor ready. And then in partnership with Sterling Bank, you're going to be looking to market these attractions, right?
That's right.
Okay, that's interesting. I like to get specifics. I like to get specifics because we'd like to follow up on this. Sounds really good. I'll read out a few comments before I come back to Mr. Charles Ogar, and then I'll just go through the different panelists to just hear, because most of what I discussed earlier with the panelists was around, okay, what's the current state? How do you perceive the current state of tourism in Cross River to be? How do you perceive it to be? What I guess I would like to hear is, we've heard from government now what it is that they're looking to do. Maybe it would be good to hear, in your view, what, how can we take things forward? How can the private sector support the government in taking things forward for the benefit of the state? All right, so I'll read out a few comments that have been dropped. And if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use the reactions button to indicate. So someone says that the Prof has nailed it. The tourism debate in Cross River State is a big joke. I don't know how many of us would agree with that, but I like the fact that Prof was very frank in his assessment of, the different administrations. It says, do we even know what tourism is about? Yet tourism is a way of life. And what about security, communications, and transportation? So I think this last comment here is very valid. There are certain things that have to happen for tourism to thrive. So for example, if you have the Obudu Mountain Resort, 7 hours away from Calabar, which is where you have, I guess, the nearest commercial airport, how are you going to get people to visit it? So that's, and if the road is bad, if you're not sure if you're going to get kidnapped or you're going to be attacked by armed robbers on your way there, what's the point taking the risk? So these are some issues that are external, but very much a part of, I guess, the Nigerian experience that, any sub-national that's looking to promote tourism has to contend with. Mrs. Bello is asking, did they do feasibility studies? I guess that's targeted at government. Mr. Umina, maybe you would be able to address that question. Someone else says what government is doing at the moment is commendable. However, private initiative is quite important in driving sustainable tourism. This will enhance maintenance of the tourism sites. And then, okay, tourism is simple. Let me give a quick example. Yeah, Michael, please just go on. Give us your quick example. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So why I wanted to give a quick example is because sometimes we complicate tourism, and I just think it's really important. So I live in Lagos now, and I wanted to take a break a couple of weeks ago. So I traveled to Abuja, and before I went, my wife and I were just browsing on Instagram to see what's interesting to do in Abuja. These are all private sector operators. Everybody's advertising their restaurants, their tourist sites, whatever it is. While I was there, we went to two places in particular I want to mention. One is a place called Almat Farms. And Almat Farms, very simple, it's a farm. And they have put a number of huts, very much like those African huts that we have at Obudu. Very simple, very clean, normal. There's a reception hut place. You go to your hut, you check in, and then from there you can go horse riding. You can go quad biking. There are different birds and animals that you can go and see. There's a huge infinity pool with an amazing view, and it's perfect for just a weekend getaway. Now, on the way there, the drive took about an hour from central Abuja. Why it was an hour was simply because the government has created a fantastic 8-lane highway, the same one that goes to the airport. So you're going fast, it's smooth. When you finally turn off to Kuje, which is the place where it is, there's a rural road, reasonably well maintained. And where you had some bad spots, there were roadworks. So the government was maintaining and widening the road that was going to this place. And if that same journey had been in Cross River, I estimate it would have taken us probably about 3 hours to do the same journey. And plus it would have been a very bumpy road, and I probably just would not have bothered. So that's the first thing. So they are very well patronized, very busy on weekends. Second place was right in the middle of Abuja, and it was a little museum that someone had put together in a really nice kind of mixed use development. So you have the museum at the center, which has a mixture of science, art, Nigerian history, et cetera, and we visited that. It only took us an hour to go around, but we spent probably half a day there because there were different restaurants and bars clustered around it in the same compound. My point is this: tourism is private sector. It is very simple. If there's an attraction that looks interesting or relaxing for people to go to, they will go. Create enough interest to eat, to drink, to do whatever. If there's a good road there, then it's an easy win. And that's really all government has to concentrate on. The idea that government would have developed the farm, built the farm, run the farm, have someone like Clement, doing all kinds of things at the farm. I don't understand it. I've never understood it. And when we were trying to do these things, it was really about, can we make these sites visitor ready? Can we get investors interested in putting infrastructure such as accommodation, restaurants, bars, and so on around it? I don't know why we complicate these things. It's just not that complicated. The government should not be investing in these things. They should only be investing in the infrastructure that allows the private sector to see the potential. And then you put a big effort towards getting investors to Cross River to invest. I don't understand. Even what Clement was saying about they're going to do marketing. What are you marketing? Why not just spend all your resources on getting things ready? Everybody can, once it's ready, there's Instagram, there's Google Ads, there's whatever. The times have changed. You don't need to do all that huge marketing like we did on TV and whatever years ago. Nowadays, it's all online. The operators will do their own thing. Government has not got to do it for them. So that's my saying. It's simple, and I think we're complicating it. We need to do the right things to get investors interested.
Michael, thank you very much. I think, yeah, you've made it simple. You brought a lot of clarity to it. And I think you're absolutely right. And it does sound to me like, listening to, or rather considering the infrastructure challenges that exist within Cross River State, it's probably even better. Whatever is being done to get the site's visitor ready should be focused on places within easy reach of Calabar, because you've got an airport there, so it's easier for people to be able to access something like Quafos, for example, rather than Abokim, which is, really far away, and you've got, challenges of how to get there. Mr. Ogar, please, I would yield to you now. You've got, so please just share your thoughts and then also closing remarks as we begin to wind down the conversation.
Yeah, okay, Ken, thanks. Mike has just been very frank about it. I think the problem we have in Cross River tourism is because, like I always say, it came from the top. Tourism was supposed to be community developed. That's people develop it from the bottom. Then government provides, just like what Michael said. But here, when the Cross Riverians themselves see tourism as basically carnival and maybe any other celebration, so it's a bit difficult. You also said something in your closing remark that, why can't we just do clusters? For instance, let us use the Calabar side, for instance, because it's close to Calabar. I've had situations where people want to come, stay here, go to the ranch, and I remember one case in my friend said, Misuka, can I get to the ranch within an hour and come back? And I just laughed. So those are the issues, because even going to the ranch, it's very, very discouraging. So why can't we, like Clement was trying to say, if I understand what Clement is saying, clearly, is the bank wants to come in, maybe also develop some of those sales themselves, and run them and make money, because they have the wherewithal. I remember during Ayade's administration, we insisted on the World Bank to come in, and they were here for 2 years, but we zeroed in on, especially when it came to hospitality, getting the maybe hotels, visitor ready and all that. We zeroed in after like 2 years for training. But then the governor just felt he wasn't interested. And, when they came for a courtesy call, I think they had up to 6 million to share, and he was very angry that it was only $6 million. So he just drove them away. So I think what we need now is, and of course this government is trying to show that, I hope it is sustained, that interest to say, look, this is our thing. I'm going to encourage you. As I'm talking as a private investor. Reduce the taxes, because what we have in Cross River State, first, the revenue, the spending income is very, very low. I'm trying to develop a place here where I got the idea from Lagos, but where they are making, like the guy told me, they make 18 million in a day. It's just a lounge. If I can get 500,000 a day, I'll be very happy. But then the tax people just look at you, and you can keep your place in the they just pounce on you and just make it so impossible for you to breathe. Okay, so let government look at the taxation issue. These are because we need to take them in little bits and clusters, because if you're looking at it holistically, it's very daunting. Okay, so let's just have a stakeholders meeting, frankly and sincerely. So where do we start? Just a little by little, let's start building the blocks. I think Donald Duke did that because he wanted to drive attention to Cross River, and I think essentially he succeeded. But like Mike said, where was the sustainability? Because even the policy of TINAPA and all that was lost. Of course, if you look at the cash outlay or the capital outlay that was required. So why can't we just try and encourage private sector to come in pockets, and give them all the enablement? Like Michael said, look at the farm. But the government was trying to ensure that there was accessibility. If you have that here, people will go, Even that farm he's talking about, I mean, he even went to Abuja. There's a farm in Ibadan. Just like that, just natural, nothing much, My kids actually went and took pictures. I said, what is it says in Ibadan? But they took the railway to a particular place, dropped off, and the place was very accessible and it's quiet. And all they went to do was just have a quiet time, go around the farms and see where people were doing fish ponds and all that. And they were there for about a week. And they spent good money. The hotels themselves were just natural, nothing fantastic, but they just wanted that quiet time. And a lot of people need that. But you see, in Cross River, we look at tourism as 5-star. You need to stay in the 5-star hotel. You need to come carnival and all of that. I think we should reject that. We should redirect our thoughts, and be sincere about it and start building it in blocks, sector by sector, step by step. Let us even encourage the local governments like we did sometime. But again, I try as much as possible to de-emphasize, like Michael said, government interventions in terms of infrastructure. There was a time we even mooted the idea that why not we have the issues of comparative advantage. Let every local government encourage people to develop a sector that is unique to that environment. But then again, because if it's government, people just say, okay, it's government. So let government just concentrate in developing those infrastructure that would enable investors to invest. Because if I go and build a farm, for instance, I go and build a plantation for whatever reason, and people don't come there, there's no accessibility. If I even have to hire, maybe security, it takes you, before you get there, you're tired and you will not want to have repeats. So let's. I think if we could do what you've just done, I wish you had bigger, longer time. But then let us have, maybe a physical meet, not necessarily Zoom, so that we can just continue and let it be sustained and let it, be on government that, look, we don't need to be afraid. Definitely, like the Professor said, it needs a huge chunk, but let us forget the big picture that was painted during Donald Duck time. Let us start developing tourism in the real essence. Encourage people to, even if you are doing a fish farm, can you make it like a tourist, attraction and all of that. And I think we'll get there. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Ogar, thank you very much. I'm conscious of the fact that we've got very limited time, but Mr. Umina, I'd like you to respond and also, just give us your closing remarks. So one of the things that, it's obvious that Mr. Charles Ogar and Mrs. Thelma Bello are asking for.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So people seem to want to be able to have platforms to engage with government. So I don't know if the impression is that, the government seems to be going in a direction and no one really knows what's going on, but maybe that's something that needs to be addressed. But yeah, so please, if you can, within the next maybe 2-3 minutes, just respond and then, just give us your closing remarks as well. Mr.
Yes, like Michael and Charles Ogar have said, probably Michael, let me first say that you didn't quite get me right when I said we're collaborating, government is collaborating with Sterling Bank.
Yeah, I think we heard you. Did you say we didn't quite get you right? Okay, let me mute Mr. Omina.
So yes, it is starting with.
Mr. Omina, can you hear me? Okay, Prof, I think we'll come to you, please. So, just share with us what your recommendations are for, taking the sector, I guess, back to where it used to be and, hopefully beyond. And then, your closing remarks as well.
Yes,
And
thank you very much.
If you can do that within 2 minutes, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my suggestion is for us to start small in view of the limited resources. We can't go as big as we would have loved to as a state, but we can start small from this Calabar and build first the capital city of Calabar, package it as an attraction. We used to have what we call Calabar City Tour. What do we have in Calabar if we want to develop a Calabar City Tour? So all that we need to make Calabar a destination and the adjoining communities, whether Kampa, Odokpane, Akpabio. We have cultural artifacts, which is the dominant tourism resource we have here. We have the farms, we have the marine. But first, we must package it first as from the point of view of a strategic plan. That okay, let's start with draw a plan for a tourism plan for Calabar, and then develop it so that as during the brainstorming, the content of the plan, we'll be able to highlight all these forms of tourism. All these forms of tourism. Look at the practitioners, the operators. We carry everybody along. Some don't really know that these potentials, the tourism potential are there. We have to educate ourselves, educate the investors, and that has to be driven first by government. Government have to offer the platform. The private sector will now call a destination we can call Calabar. Like Clement had just said. We can say visit Calabar to my move to Ecom.
Okay, Prof, I think
we'll after having two entering points into the state, and the later we can now.
We're struggling to hear Prof. So I think, David Etum, your hand is raised up. Please just go ahead in 1 minute. Share your thoughts, please.
Thank you. Quickly, I just want to address a few things. Mr. Ogar was talking about the tax issue. I want to speak, well, I'm not a government person, but I want to say something that I think the government has done, which is commendable, which was the issue of trying to address and harmonize its taxation with the enactment of the presumptive tax law. Now, I appreciate that it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing for that law to be implemented. But I do believe that as private sector, we need to begin to hold government's foot to the fire. I am aware of a situation whereby I'd sent out messages to Mr. Ogar through one of their members, and to be able to come together and articulate these challenges and address government. I can say, thus far, that the current government has been willing to listen and put in place structures that would address challenges. But we need to articulate. Grumbling in our own spaces, speaking in corners, doesn't help. We need to be able to bring together an articulated format of what the challenges are. In the hospitality sector, he was talking about taxes and harassment and all of that. He's experiencing it, but we need to bring it together as private sector. I happen to be also the chairperson of the Organized Private Sector Forum in Cross River State. So, we need to come together. We need to speak with one voice. We need to be able to push that argument. I want to align fully also with what Michael said in terms of investment in the tourism sector. It will never be accomplished by government. Government should see, even talking about World Bank. World Bank is catalytic funding. Where is $6 million going to go in the tourism sector of Cross River State? It's nowhere. It's catalytic funding. It's just to trigger strategic things that would then snowball. We need to put in place the right policies. We need to, yes, access those catalytic funds to trigger the main things that will pull the funds. Donald Duke's administration was to provide catalytic a catalytic environment. TINAPA was to be catalytic. It's just that it did not trigger. You know, we need to be able to realize that government money in any sector is catalytic. World Bank money in any sector is catalytic. The real money that drives the sector, that gets the things done, that gets you to the end goal is private sector investment. You know, and until we look at that, then we're not going anywhere. Thank you very much.
All right, David, thanks very much. So Mrs. Bello says our next topic should be on multiple taxation. Let us take a census of businesses that have left Calabar and challenges of ones still operating. So I think that's a great idea. And I think we should be looking to bring on the chairman of the state inland revenue. So we'll definitely take that on and invite him. So just to let everyone know, we did invite the commissioner for tourism. You know, it would have been nice to hear from the commissioner himself, but we're grateful to have had Mr. Omina here, who's been involved in tourism over the last at least 24 years in Cross River State. So as I bring this conversation to a close, I want to thank everyone who's attended. Thank you so much to those who've listened on Sparkling FM 92.3, on the different platforms, YouTube. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. It helps us. It costs you nothing. So if you subscribe to our channel, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us quite a bit in terms of reaching out to a wider audience with our messages. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Charles Ogar. Thank you, Professor Bassey Esu. Thank you, Mr. Clement Umina. Thank you, David Etim, Michael Williams, Mrs. Bello. Thank you for sharing your insights. And we shall watch this space. So one of the things that we're doing as part of the Cross River movement is that we're setting up an accountability board on our website. So when we talk to commissioners, when we hear from people in government about what government is looking to do, we are keeping track of those things, and we, we'll be publishing those things on the website, and and letting people know essentially what government's looking to do, so that others can hold government accountable as well. Thank you, Michael. Michael says, great conversation. Thank you so much. Ivy Speaks says, great conversation here. Well done, speakers. So thanks very, very much, everyone, and look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. Before we go, I'll hand over to Kennedy to just give us some announcements. Thank you once again.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you, everyone, for joining this wonderful session. I hope you can hear me. This was brought to you by TCRM, the Cross River Movement. The Cross River Movement is all about promoting good governance, and this is the civic engagement series where we're bringing on various parastatals, stakeholders, people from the government, the educational sector, and private sector to come together and discuss issues pertaining to the growth and development of Cross River State. We have this conversation every fortnight. So our next conversation will be holding 17th of March, and 10th, the next Sunday, we also have TCRM Talks, which hold every month. So do well to connect with our platform, engage, and also to help us share and reach out to more people, because we value the insights, and from the insights we're able to drive conversations and know exactly where we need to promote our advocacy towards as people who are interested in building Cross River State. Thank you very much. Do use our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, at Cross River Move. Connect and drop your comments. This video also will be available there. Drop your comments, suggestions, and let's keep engaging. Thank you, everybody, for joining the Cross River Movement conversation today.
All right, thank you very much, Ken. Thanks, everyone, for joining. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.